The Carolina Hurricanes, last year, just looking at last year a little bit, they were second in the Metro, first in the league in Corsi for percentage, second in expected goals for percentage, and first in scoring chances for percentage at even strength. Just an outstanding even strength team in terms of shot and chance generation. This team has kind of been known for not being very good at converting, like being a really high volume team, but not necessarily, like the fancy stats crew, the expect to win-o-meter, or deserve to win-o-meter is always in their favor, but that doesn't necessarily mean they always win.
Yeah.
And then their 5v5 save percentage was 18th in the league. They had a 904 as a team. They had some struggles. Antti Ranta was brutal last year. Yes. Kochetkov had a decent season. And Freddie Anderson obviously was out with the blood clot issues.
Kochetkov pissed me off, man. You know, the year prior to last year, Kochetkov was the man. So my dumbass overdrafted him, and like for the first half of the season, the dude, you know, either wasn't in the league, or when he was in the league, he'd lose you the goaltending categories or whatever. And so you know, I dropped his ass, and then post Christmas, he's a Vezina goalie again. So screw that guy.
Yeah, they were tough to kind of predict. They had that 3 goalie carousel thing going, like a few other teams last year. I don't anticipate there being too much of that around the league this year, just based on looking at things. But I don't know. They're like, you never really know, and you don't know how injuries are gonna go. Especially here, Freddie Anderson just seems to be out for an extended time every single year. Obviously, last year, like, how are you supposed to? I don't want to say he's injury prone, because like, how are you supposed to know you're gonna have blood clots? Like,
you can't get too angry at that.
yeah, exactly. But their 5v5 save percentage, pretty average. Their shooting percentage at 5v5 was 8.86%. That is 26th in the league, so that kind of lines up with poor conversion. It's not incredibly surprising. Their conversion on the power play, though, was outstanding. They were the second ranked power play in the league at 26.9% conversion. A bit of a very similar high volume, low quality, like not a ton of scoring chances produced. They're just firing the puck at the net. They also had the second highest team shooting percentage on the power play in the league. So, I mean, there could be some negative regression there, because actually the previous year they were among the league, like they're among the bottom. They were at the bottom of the league in shooting percentage on the power play. So I think they're probably somewhere in the middle. But as we're about to talk about, this team has changed quite a bit.
A lot of departures.
Yeah, a ton of departures, ton of key ones too.
Mm-hmm.
So Jake Gensel left for Tampa. We've got Tara Vinen that went back to Chicago. Brett Pesce to the Devils. Brady Shea to the Predators. Stefan Nason to the Devils. Evgeny Kuznetsov took off to Russia. And then in terms of additions, they brought in Shayne Gostisbehere. He was there the previous year. Sean Walker comes in. Jack Roslovic and William Carrier. So Gagan, is this team better or worse?
I don't know how you look at the additions and the subtractions and can say they're better. I do like Shayne Gostisbehere on the power play, though, but you know, what if the coach likes Brent Burns instead of Shayne Gostisbehere there? So you know, how much of an effect is that going to have? Because Gostisbehere is not, you know, good at defense, so where's his role going to be at that point? I don't like Roslovic either, and either Sean Walker or whatever. Carrier, I like his bangs, but yeah.
Yeah, I think just across the board, this team is worse, both defensively and offensively. It's hard, like you said, it's hard to say that they're better in any way, just with all those key departures. Like Pesce and Shea, that was like that was kind of a shutdown pair for them almost.
Totally.
For quite a few years, and that's like the meat of their defense core is gone, and then you bring in Gostisbehere, who obviously, like you said, power play specialist, but doesn't really move the needle defensively at all. Sean Walker's a pretty solid player, but I don't think he's at the level of Brett Pesce. But Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I don't think I'm not really very interested in Roslovic or Carrier
No.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about the goaltenders a little bit, but let's just take a closer look. So Pyotr Kochetkov had 40 starts last year. He had a 913 even strength save percentage. Freddie Anderson just 16 starts, but he had a 932 even strength save percentage. People are pretty down on Freddie Anderson and kind of almost like pushing him out the door, thinking
Yeah.
that Kachekhov's going to be the volume starter. I just don't see that being the case. The coaching staff's the same. Rod Brindamore's still there. I see this being a 50-50 tandem.
Yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely.
What do you think? Like
No, I
that's kind of
agree.
how it feels to me. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, of course, you never know with Freddie Anderson's blood clots and whatnot. And I'm sure he's gonna have a few games where he needs maintenance. And if that's the case, then sure, I could see Kochetkov getting some more starts, being the young gun that he is. But as of right now, assuming all things equal, everyone's healthy, I think it is a 50-50. And maybe they'll give preference to the veteran because the veteran Anderson has to do a lot more work with a lower quality defense in front of him.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, whenever Anderson has been healthy, he's been the preferred target for Rod Brindamore. So
Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me that if it stayed the same in that way.
totally.
In terms of schedule for this team this year, they have 16 back to back. So in terms of goaltending, that is a little more enticing for a team that is kind of leans towards tandem starting. So they have 16 back-to-backs, tied for the Leafs for the first in the league. They have 31 off nights. That's tied for 11th in the league. Their playoff schedules from weeks 22 to 24, they have 9 games, 5 off nights, and then from 23 to 25, 12 games, 6 off nights. That's a pretty decent schedule. The 22 to 24, they're not as strong, but yeah, I mean nothing too interesting about
Yeah,
any of these schedule quirks.
yeah. I do
Let's
like the
take a
back
look.
to backs, though. I do like the back to backs.
Yes.
Just if by chance, let's say Kachekhov's on your wire, you could really strategize for those back to back weeks. Again, I don't think he'll be on the wire, but you never know because last year he was on the wire because he sucked for the first half. So just something to
Yeah.
keep in mind.
Yeah. I am a little concerned about their team situation. But they do still have some really nice
Oh
fantasy
yeah,
targets.
totally.
And because they're so top heavy, I do feel like there is the potential for this year to finally be the year where they start playing their big guys a little bit more. So let's look at that leads us to the power play projection here. So my thoughts are that it's going to be Aho, Svechnikov, Jarvis, Martin Necas, and Shayne Gostisbehere. You talked about Brent Burns. I mean, they've shown in the last couple of years that they're not super stoked about Burns being the power play quarterback anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
They last year they brought in Tony DeAngelo, and at the
yeah.
start of the year, I was pretty high on the fact that they were not super stoked about Burns being the power play quarterback, because otherwise why would you bring in Tony DeAngelo?
Right.
Obviously
Yeah,
that didn't really work out, but Shayne Gostisbehere did play for them after the trade deadline 2 years ago and had some success quarterbacking the power play. So I just see that being
yeah,
big the way
yeah.
that it plays out. What do you think, man?
Yeah, no, I absolutely. I think if not right away, eventually it will be Goss Spares. We had the same discussion last year with Goss Spare on Detroit, and
Yeah.
Siders wasn't really the power play guy that he cracked up to be on his rookie season. They brought in Goss Spare for a reason. Goss Spare is good at like one thing, and that's the power play. So it's kind of like all you need to know, right?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah, very similar team situations in terms of uh, the way that their coach feels about their top D man quarterbacking their power play. It seems like Carolina and Detroit are both trying to kind of bring in power play specialists in order to take those minutes.
Yeah.
So in terms of forward projections, I don't have a ton of guys that are really that interesting. But let's talk about Sebastian Aho. He's usually the first guy off the board. I've got him for 38 goals, 44 assists, and 82 points. In his ADP in the Apples and Geno's best ball leagues, I'm going to be talking about that a little bit because we have
Yeah,
our internal ADP. We might as well talk about it.
absolutely.
It's 43.2, and then on Yahoo it's 40.4. So pretty similar. Not a huge
Yeah.
difference there. I obviously I like Aho. He had career highs last year in points. He actually did get played a little bit more than he had in previous years, so hopefully that's a sign of things to come. But I mean, this is a guy that never really excites me in draft
Oh
season.
yeah, same.
I tend to there always tends to be someone that's a little more interested in him than I am.
Constantly, yeah, and he's a pure
Um,
C too, and
yes,
I have never drafted this man in my life. I like him, but there's always someone better, and I think this is the lowest he's been since he's actually established himself as a 1C. Usually he's like a third round, sometimes late
yeah.
second round player. I'm not taking that.
Yeah, 100%. And then Andrei Svechnikov, I've got him for 27 goals, 47 assists, 74 points. That would be a career high, the 74 points, but that's over an 82 game span. Obviously, he's struggled with injuries the last couple of
Yeah,
years, and that's kind of stunted his development a little bit. I've also got him for 183 hits because he is a beefer.
he is.
His Apples and Geno's ADP is 46.6, and his Yahoo ADP is 45.8, so also very similar. Not a huge discrepancy there. Svechnikov is probably has the highest upside of anyone on this team. He did see a bit of a dip in underlying numbers, which is a bit of a concern last year. But with the, I mean, you've got him coming back. I mean, I think completely healthy.
Yeah.
And also, like I said, like this team is a lot more top heavy. Like I could see him riding with Aho for a good chunk of the year, both on the power play and 5v5, and that's a good situation for Svechnikov. So
That
I don't
makes
know
the most
how
sense to me. Yeah,
yeah.
I agree. But the problem is, it makes a lot of sense, and Rod Brindamore's the coach, so it's not going to happen. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know you're probably right. Seth Jarvis at right wing. I've got him projected for 30 goals, 39 assists, 69 points, which is a very nice career
very
high.
nice, very
Uh,
nice.
he's got 100, and then I have him for 108 hits as well. He's a nice, well-rounded player. His Apples and Geno's ADP is 71.3, and in Yahoo 79.8. So a little bit of a difference there. So yeah, I really like Seth Jarvis.
Yeah.
I don't think you're getting him for as much value
No.
as you would have in previous years,
Yeah.
because he did kind of have a breakout last year, and they've been playing him a ton. But yeah, I see him kind of staying with the status quo, probably playing on the right of those other two previously mentioned. What are your thoughts on Jarvis here, Gug?
I got a soft spot for him. I got him in the last round or two in a lot of my leagues last year, and the dude was an absolute beast. I couldn't let him go. At one point in the year, like early in the year, he was the second best player for a decent stretch, and I like to gloat about that, knowing it's he's not that good, but about his ADP though, as you said, there's not the value of last year isn't there here, and around that ADP, you could get someone like Timo Meyer if you're in a bangers, Mika Zibanejad, Hamilton, not Dobson, and I don't see myself getting Jarvis with that kind of value around him.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. Let's go on to Martin Necas, also a right winger. So my projection here, this is a bullish projection. I don't actually feel like he's going to hit these levels. This is probably his ceiling. But my projection here is 26 goals, 42 assists, 68 points. His 5v5 environment is not going to be great this year.
Yeah,
Likely playing with some combination of Jesperi Kotkaniemi and
yeah,
Jack Roslovic.
yeah.
Both not very exciting at all. His ADP in Apples and Genos is 100.1, and in Yahoo it's actually lower at 112.3. Yeah, I'm probably not drafting this guy. I don't know about you.
No, no, I'm good. I respect the talent, and I was really hoping he'd like come to the Canucks. I'm a Canucks fan, but that didn't happen. I was hoping he'd go anywhere else. I think he can really blossom, but yeah, I know he's good, but I'll let someone else take him.
Yeah, fair enough. And let's actually we'll talk about Kotkaniemi and Roslovic. I do have a projection for these guys. This is I think Kakaniemi's absolute ceiling projection is like 52 points,
Yeah,
15
that sounds
goals.
right.
But even there is that's a stretch, I think.
Yeah,
So this is a guy that's really a peripheral fantasy guy, just a straight streamer.
totally.
And then Jack Roslovic. Uh, I mean, I think his absolute ceiling is even less than that. Probably around the similar amount of goals, 15 goals. I have him for
Yeah,
48 points, but that's his absolute ceiling.
yeah.
I just don't. I'm not interested in either of these guys. I
Oh,
haven't. I
yeah,
haven't really ever been, especially in draft season.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
I will compliment Kotkaniemi. Most of my leagues are bangers categories, and I love center left wing eligible players that win faceoffs, that throw the body. So if you're in a bangers categories league and Carolina has a good schedule, pick up Kotkaniemi to fill up those peripheral stats. But other than that, no, I'm not really into him.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, let's move on to the defense. So we've got a couple fantasy relevant guys here. Shayne Gostisbehere, I think he's probably going to be the best value on
Oh
this
yeah,
team. I
steal.
have him projected for 10 goals, 43 assists, 53 points. It doesn't do a ton peripherally, but will get you power play points, and that is super valuable in a bangers cats.
That's huge.
Um, his Apples and Geno's ADP was 128.8. In Yahoo, it's 158.6. So that's where we're starting to see a discrepancy between Yahoo and our people in our Discord.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think Gostisbehere is a guy that you're going to be able to get for value, and he's a guy that I
absolutely.
will probably be targeting
Yeah.
in drafts this year for like a third to fourth defenseman.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm all about value. I think, that's what got me into apples and Genos. It's showing the listeners where the value is and where the value isn't so you can stay away from it. And, I like that most fantasy managers are kind of forgetting about him. 155 for a power play, one defenseman. I mean, that's, reach for that and you're going to be happy getting those power play points.
well, the ADP for Brent Burns may explain why Gostisbehere is so low. So I think the people in Yahoo are probably just
Yeah.
projecting that Brent Burns is going to be getting power play one. I have him projected for 9 goals, 30 assists, 39 points. His Apples Geno's ADP 171.9. In Yahoo it's 118.3. So that's a
Yeah.
pretty significant difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't see that being the case. I mean, it's certainly possible with Rod Brindamore. He tends to kind of shake things up on the power play a little bit, and he gets itchy in terms,
Yeah.
especially with his defenseman. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just don't see. I mean, we'll talk about it until we're blue in the face. Why do you get Shayne Gostisbehere unless he's gonna get the power play? But
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
Brent Burns, that ADP is gross. You can literally take Mike Matheson there, who's just so much better, so much
yeah.
better. And yeah,
100%. So we'll go into our top three targets, but I do in previous years I talked about a punt and a sleeper for each team. My punt would be probably Necas or Burns. We kind of talked about that before.
yeah,
And in terms of punt, I'm not saying like they're on like a do not draft list, but they're guys that I'm probably not drafting at their ADPs
yeah,
currently.
yeah,
And then in terms of a sleeper, a true sleeper could be Bradley Nadeau if he's able to make the lineup. He actually had 46 points in 37 games last year at the University of Maine. And he's a pretty highly touted prospect that is projected to potentially make the lineup. So that's a guy that could get some opportunity just with the the dearth of offensive talent on this team. I could see him being a guy that gets a bit of time. So
yeah,
and potentially exposure to some good players. So that's a guy I would definitely be looking out for. Not a guy I'm drafting, but a
yeah.
guy
No,
definitely a name to know for sure.
totally. Keep an eye on training camp. Put them on your watch list and see where it goes.
Absolutely. And my top three targets are Shayne Gostisbehere. We mentioned that before. And in terms of top three targets, we'll talk about it. We're gonna go with like a similar definition to the way that Nate and Blake have done their top three targets for the projections episode, which is these aren't the best three guys. These aren't the best three fantasy assets. These are the guys that I want to be picking at their ADP or potentially like, yeah, These are the best value guys.
Yeah.
Shayne Gostisbehere. I also have Seth Jarvis. I'm pretty high on the guy. His ADP has kind of he's going a little higher than I'd expected. So I'm not. I don't know. There's a conversation to be had about
Right.
that. But
And you so sorry. I
no,
know
go
that
ahead.
his ADP is high, but every league is different. Maybe every one of your competitors, your fellow fantasy managers have the same idea. And sometimes the guy's ADP is, in the 60s, but everyone's like, this guy only had one good year. And next thing you know, you could get him in the 11th round or the 12th round.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
for sure. For sure. And then Andrei Svechnikov, I'm still pretty high on the upside. And at the spot where he's going, like around 45, 46, that's not a bad spot for him to potentially bet. He's got a nice floor, and especially a nice peripheral floor too with the shots and hits. But I do think that there is some crazy upside there if they finally decide to play him.
Are you
For
worried
more than
about injury at all?
I mean, I've been pretty outspoken about not being worried about injuries much at all, and just trying not to factor that into my decisions in draft season. Obviously, there are a few guys that have like a large sample size of getting injured a lot. Like I talk about guys like Max Pacioretty, TJ Oshie, guys like that. That are later in their careers as well. Svechnikov, it's so early in his career. I just feel like I'm not concerned yet. I'm definitely willing to bet on the upside there.